this rehearsal was our last one before our performance of the primary school TIE. So it's very much about making sure that everything's very fluid, and that we've made any adaptations that we need to make sure that it's good for make sure it's performance ready. So we added some new stuff onto it, just kind of adapted it a little bit to make it how we wanted it before the performance. So we added some interactions in the first scene where we do the High School Musical dance number. So when we all run on about to do the dance number, we all kind of have like enthusiastic conversations with each other, kind of talking about school, being all kind of like excited, enthusiastic about secondary school, and having a different conversation with each other, kind of talking about an aspect of school, just to add that kind of aspect of the theme of secondary schools into this High School Musical number. Which I know is about high school anyway, but in the lyrics are more about we're all in this together, so we kind of add that secondary school aspect into it. The enthusiasm means that we don't have to have great dance moves, which we need because we can't rely on our dancing ability. So if we have really high enthusiasm, we can just be bouncing around the stage. It just creates a very engaging scene, and it doesn't matter if we're amazing at the dance moves. It's the enthusiasm and excitement that we exude kind of just keeps the audience very engaged and very excited. So the really over-the-top reactions which we're having when we have having these conversations between each other, all these interactions, and we run on, say hi, and get into these conversations, it creates like a very, very high energy, enthusiastic beginning that just excites the target audience, and so they're engaged right off the bat, and it gives the scene a very good first impression of the play, as it makes it seem very exciting. This then is very starkly contrasted by the second scene we do with the an aggressive fighting, and which is contrasted in the way that it's not the extreme High School Musical enthusiastic, excited, happy kind of scene. It's very much high exaggerated aggression and anger and fear and all, but it's again very extreme. It's the opposite extreme, very high intensity, high energy scene. And this again is also like engaging the audience, captivating their attention. We also decided to create kind of like a structure in this chaos, so we directed the audience's attention. So we had on stage at first when we all break out of that pose, me, who is giving Charlotte a headlock, and Megan, who is yelling. We're like the loudest on the stage, directing the audience attention to us, and then we kind of quieten down, and Alexis and Hannah get louder and directing the audience attention to them, and then they kind of quieten down, and Imogen and Harriet get louder, directing the audience's attention to them, and that kind of creating like a structure in the chaos. It makes it easier for the audience to follow, and it also means that the audience get to see all these nice little scenes that we've created. So something else that we've changed is the structure of the Little Worries scene. Because before it was very much Megan tells a story, we act it out. Very simplistic, and it wasn't quite what we wanted. It wasn't like kind of as interesting as we wanted it to be, as visually interesting. So we changed it a little bit, and so we would kind of act out a little bit of the scene. Megan would pause, narrate what just happened, and then we carry on, act a bit more of the scene, pause, narrate just what happened, and it just kind of, it works a lot better. It's a little bit more complex, and therefore it's a bit more visually interesting and engaging. So what I mean by that is of how she kind of pauses it. In the first bit, Caitlin, who is playing Little Megan, she goes, "Oh, I'm really lost," and then old Hannah, playing old student, comes in and goes, "Are you all right? You look a bit you look a bit lost. Are you okay?" And then Megan pauses it, says, I was lost that day. Oh, I was late that day, but an older student came and helped me. And then then the scene carries on, and she points which way direction it was. And then we come in, me and Alexis, being like, "Oh, are you going to science? Are you going to science? Yeah." And then she pauses again and being like, "But 2 other students were late too." And carries on, and we're like, "Oh, you go in, you go in, you go in." No, I don't want to go in. And then we kind of push Alexis first, and she kind of gets to the classroom. And then Megan pauses and says something like, "Oh yeah, we managed to find the classroom eventually," and the teacher was, and then managed to find the classroom eventually, and then she unpauses and we all go, "Oh, we're so sorry, so sorry," and the teacher's like, "Oh, it's all right, don't worry about it, to take your seats," and it pauses again, and Megan's like, "Oh yeah, the teacher was really chill about it." So this kind of creates a very visually interesting story which the audience can follow, but while being very very clear, so clearly clarified by Megan, who's like narrating it. So this makes it very easy to follow, but also very visually interesting. So another thing we changed was when we're doing like the introductions of the chapters, we have a narrator who we step forwards and we step back. But however, we changed the step back because often it was very much out of sync, and therefore or some people often forgot, and therefore looked really messy, and it just didn't seem very professional. Didn't seem very well rehearsed, and we didn't want to give that kind of impression of us. So we thought we just had the narrator stepping forward, and just and it would worked fine. It was an okay move, and it also made everything less messy, less disorganised, and it just everything just looked a lot neater. Something else we did was remove the ski trip from the memories, because it was just unnecessary, and it was hard to act out, and we only really needed 1 school trip, because we only had 1 memory for each thing, and in that one, and for school trips we had 2, which didn't quite make sense. So it was just a lot more organised with each memory, and each memory was very clearly depicted. You could tell, just without even the title, you could tell what they were doing. So after this, all these changes we did a few run-throughs to improve the fluidity, to make sure we had everything that we just added down, and made everything, and just make everything more smooth, polished, performance ready. So in these performances, with these run-throughs, everything seemed to go well, and we really thought we were performance ready. Just things we had to keep in our back of our minds, of stuff that we had to always be aware of, is that we had to focus on, for the performance, speaking with clarity, and speaking with clarity by speaking slowly. Even though we're being enthusiastic and excited, we have to get that across while speaking slowly so that the audience can tell what we're saying, and by focusing on our diction so that the audience can again hear what we're saying, so they don't miss any information or become lost, or which can be quite frustrating if they can't hear what the actors are saying. And especially since in our last TIE it was identified as a problem. Everyone spoke too fast, and it lacked diction, which meant people missed information. So there was really something we had to focus on in this TIE, especially with the enthusiastic, excited atmosphere. We also had something that we keep in the back of mind was the very natural conversational way which we speak in a theatre and education piece. And we had to use very colloquial language to make it sound conversational, so that it doesn't appear like a presentation of an assembly, because that's not what it is. You want to create a piece that the audience can engage with, can relate with, and develop a connection with the messages and the actors on stage, cast on stage. Because you don't want to seem like actors like we're putting on a play. You want to seem like we are being genuinely giving advice, genuinely helping, and instead of just acting out a play. Because if we are presented as ourselves, with this natural conversational way of talking, it seems more personal, and we therefore seem more trustworthy and more relatable to the target audience. So we all finished this rehearsal feeling very positive about our theatre and education piece, which is good because this was the last rehearsal, and yeah, we think that we're feeling very positive about it. We just have to keep those last few things in mind.